Interior living room at night. An 18-year-old boy, Joe Bryant, slouches on a sofa and stares blankly at the TV. The comedy show Only Fools and Horses is on. A framed photograph sits on the mantelpiece of Joe at age 10. The Joe in the photograph sits behind a wheel of a police Land Rover. He smiles playfully as he grips the steering wheel in full action mode. Other photographs line the mantelpiece, including one of Joe's father posing proudly and seriously in his RUC uniform. Then blackness and silence as an electricity suddenly cuts off.
Joseph, what did you do?
Boom, a huge explosion rocks the house. Dishes and glassware crashing down and smashing all of the kitchen floor penetrate the blackness. Conference hall day. A large hall full of boisterous young boys, aged around 10. They chat, laugh, and fidget. The hall is filled with excited energy. A man stands on stage. A banner behind him reads, Summer Camp 1984. A man has a few sheets of paper. On the sheet, it reads, Peace and Reconciliation Initiative 1984. Just Leon, no. Oh no, Shaquille. Sorry, Shaquille's not with us. Anybody just jump in?
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so once you've found a boy with the same card, say hello to your buddy.
Joe, at 10 years old, turns to the boy next to him, Patrick Corrigan, also 10, and holds out his hand. They speak with Belfast accents.
Hi, buddy. All right.
They smile and shake hands. Patrick unconsciously rubs at the small but very visible scar on his neck. Bedroom day. Patrick and Joe unpack. Joe pulls out a pile of comics, takes one and begins flicking through it. Patrick takes out clothes, towels, flip-flops. A middle-aged lady enters the room very buoyantly with a beaming smile.
You boys settling in okay? Well, we got an all-American supper waiting for you downstairs when you finished unpacking.
The lady leaves. Patrick and Joe smirk at each other. Joe gets back to reading his comic as Patrick takes out an A3 size campaign poster for the Republican political party Sinn Féin. It has a photo of Jerry Adams on it. Patrick pins it to the court notice board above the bedroom desk. Patrick turns around and glances at Joe with a childlike defiance. Joe looks at the poster, senses the significant gesture, and darts his eyes back to his comic. A picturesque log cabin surrounded by beautiful woods, other expensive-looking log cabins, are situated in an intimate semicircle suggesting a close-knit community. American flags flutter from every porch. Patrick and Joe bounce on a large trampoline in the expansive backyard that blends almost seemingly with the fairy tale-like woods. They face each other as they bounce. They try to get their bounces coordinated so they can spring up even higher. They miss the pop a few times and finally get it. They launch up higher than expected, then grab each other to stabilize themselves. They laugh as they almost fall over, then they try to get the pop again. Later in the log cabin, the sun is almost fully set. The dusk orchestra of insects chime through the trees. The boys continue bouncing, now with less energy.
Party?
Aye, we always have a party when a pedo or a Brit gets killed.
Patrick smirks slightly as Joe struggles to absorb this information. They slow their bouncing to a stop as the woods surrounding them continue to darken. In Belfast, 1 year later, Joe unsteadily creaks down a set of ladders from the loft. A woman cries from behind the closed bedroom door. He approaches the bedroom door and slowly opens it.
Goldie died.
Their cat Goldie scampers through the narrowly open door. Later in Joe's bedroom, Joe sits on his bed, staring blankly at his feet. His grandmother sits next to him, rubbing her hand on his shoulder.
It's okay to cry if you want to.
Smoke silently billows from the inner grounds of a heavily fortified police station. A riot is in full swing. A car burns in the middle of the street. Masked youths hurl petrol bombs from behind Skip's commandeered as makeshift barricades. Riot police stand behind open doors of Land Rovers positioned in the roads across the middle of the street. Patrick scampers around the periphery of a riot. He soaks up the violence, his eyes displaying a mix of fear, excitement, and a developing pride. A particularly brave youth gets right up to a Land Rover with a breeze block and pummels it into the Land Rover's metal grille covered front windshield. The breeze block bounces harmlessly off and onto the street. Nevertheless, the youth punches the air with both arms proudly as he receives cheers from his new fans huddled behind the Skips. Patrick continues to enjoy the spectacle as he suddenly collapses to the ground. He grabs his ankle, his face crumpled in agony. Police officer lowers his rubber bullet gun and peers across the rubble and glass strewn across the street at Patrick. The officer sighs and shakes his head. A soldier approaches as Patrick squints up. The soldier simply walks past, but as he does, he steps on the half-smashed petrol bomb. The bottle crushes and a splinter of glass pings up. Patrick flinches in pain as the splinter cuts him on the cheek. He glares up with venom at the soldier walking away. Later that night, we see a photograph of Joe behind the wheel of the Land Rover again and close up. The electricity blacked out.
Joseph, what did you do?
Boom, a huge explosion rocks the house, dishes and glassware all across the kitchen floor. 20 seconds of pitch black silence, and then a beam of torch streams into the living room and over the toppled photographs on the mantelpiece as Joe's mother, Anne Bryant, enters. Joe stands up and opens the curtains to see two soldiers run past the window through their back garden. Doorbell rings and Anne goes to answer. Joe sits back down on the sofa, relatively calm after what just happened.
How do you guess it was the forensic lab?
But it was under my car. It felt that close.
Do you have whiskey?
Later that night, an 18-year-old Patrick sits at the kitchen table eating dinner with Gerard, his uncle, and his mother, Sinead. We spot a small but noticeable scar on Patrick's cheek from the riot years before. They sit together and watch the breaking news.
Early reports suggest this bomb at the forensic laboratory is one of the largest explosions the IRA has ever detonated. As yet, there are no reports of any deaths or injuries.
That's a pile of evidence snatched from the Brits' clutches.
A good evening's work.
Patrick unleashes a devilish grin as his finger raises hesitantly up the still visible scar on his cheek. Joe is in a photography darkroom mixing chemicals under the cam red light. The photography technician enters.
I didn't think you'd be in today. What's it like up there?
Like a bomb hit it.
Joe is in a large free space area for students to park independently. He flicks through the clear plastic pages of a large art portfolio of graphic design work.
Looking sharp?
Joe and his friend Billy Dixon, also 18 years old. Billy is a hard-looking man, shaved head, muscular, with a full sleeve of tattoos. Joe stands up, arms folded with satisfaction as Billy flicks through the portfolio.
Fucking class shit, big lad. Cheers.
No bother. What else are you bringing to the interview? Your pots?
Oh, why? Did you put the good word in for me?
Yeah, it's going to be grand. Your stuff is fucking class. Get into this course, and then you can throw in the towel on your wee side business.
Speaking of which,
Billy opens his sandwich maker and takes out an oblong block of cannabis resin.
it's a wee delivery on the way back to your house, okay?
Later on the street, a car speeds down. Billy is driving. Hip-hop music blasts the interior. Billy reclines way back in his seat so that he's almost in the back seat. He lightly touches the steering wheel with two fingers of one hand. The other holds a cigarette. Joe sits in the passenger seat, slightly uncomfortable at the speed and casual way of driving. Later, Billy's car bombs down a deserted road. One solitary car travels down the road behind Billy's. Billy notices the car rev up suspiciously close. Billy speeds up and the car behind also speeds up, maintaining the distance.
What the fuck is this chancer doing?
Billy hits the brakes, slowing the car way down.
Let the wankers overtake.
The car begins to overtake, but then cruises parallel to Billy's. Someone smiles and does the fingers through the window. Billy does the fingers back and smiles.
These lads are the boys, know what I mean?
Joe nods. Later, Billy, Joe, and the three boys lean against their cars having a smoke. Duster, 32, big but not muscular. He sports no tattoos and dresses in a pair of well-fitted jeans, a check shirt, smart casual. He doesn't look like the average Belfast man, although his posture and mannerisms identifies him as a dominant member.
He was in the Peelers, wasn't he?
Joe nods nervously.
You just gonna let it go, like?
He shrugs.
Take it up the arse.
Like you who did it, yeah?
You think Duster doesn't know who did it? Duster knows very well who did it. Duster will tell you a wee secret. Tags did it! Because it's no fucking secret.
They didn't all do it, for fuck's sake.
Your dad was a peeler. SSRUC and all that means they all cheered when they heard. Probably at a party.
Joe very much soaks up this moment, knowing it to be perhaps true. Duster notices Joe's anger increasing.
Once you get your first Fenian blood, the rest drop easy. Your old Duster says opportunity knocks.
Jared talks to the reporters in front of a Republican mural.
The Orange Order is seen as a sectarian organization. It's an anti-Catholic organization, and it's going to be marching through a Catholic district. Nobody knows who gives these people the right to do this. Our communities are going to be under siege again. People are going to be barricaded in their homes again. To let these outsiders come and march here, we just don't accept that it is necessary. We're not saying don't march. They can march, but why through an area where it will obviously cause friction?
Jared sits with his young son, Sean, 12. Patrick sits on an armchair watching TV.
It might look exciting, but if you see or hear anything, you just stay inside, all right?
He nods.
It's dangerous.
Sean.
Sean looks over at his cousin. Patrick points at the scar on his cheek.
The Brits did this to me. Nothing serious like. That was just because they were unlucky.
Sean takes all of this with a pretty casual expression, not really absorbing the warning. Later, Patrick, in his supermarket uniform, stacking shelves with a co-worker.
You live around there, right?
He nods.
What do you think about it all?
I hate the whole situation, to be honest, but if I have to.
He squeezes the oranges hard and throws them into a box for damaged produce.
I see what you did there.
I'm only half joking. It is what it is, mate. What do you expect me to do? Tolerate someone who would happily see me 6 foot under?
In the gym hall, repurposed into an art room with tables and boards to display art, a group of students sit in a small semicircle to present and to discuss each other's work. Joe holds up a painting of his. It's a pretty tacky and cliched depiction of two maps of Ireland. One is in the colours of the British Union Jack, the other in the colours of the Irish tricolour. Between them, a white dove flies. One student, Derek, leans back in his chair with his arms folded as he rocks the chair back and forth on the two bare legs. He raises his hand to express his opinion.
Hands across the divide, give peace a chance.
You don't like it?
It's cliche. Looks like it was done by someone who has never set foot here.
Hands across the divide. Exactly. Heal the wounds. What?
Well, easy for you to say.
Hardly.
Heal wounds indeed. Look where you live.
We all live in Belfast,
We don't all have wounds to heal.
but we all might in the future.
If we don't give peace a chance.
Cunts.
Later in the college bar, Joe, Derek, and Lindsay sit together over a few drinks. Derek sits in his same confidently relaxed pose with his hands clasped behind his head. Joe slouches over his pint.
When is it?
Next month. It's mental, all this shite over a march.
Who do you think is in the right then?
Who should be giving peace a chance?
These marches aren't the problem.
Try telling that to the people trapped in their homes while the march passes.
Probably would have been in bed at that time anyway. Suddenly to have the desperate need for bread and milk.
It's a principle thing.
All right, Joe. Hands across the divide. Divide being the key word. You have to make a choice. Who do you side with?
Joe
Well-
sits back in his seat and awkwardly mirrors Derek's pose of hands clasped behind his head. Joe
Well-
closes his eyes and nods.
Obviously, I'd have to side with the side who don't want me dead.
Joe opens his eyes again to see Derek flirtatiously fiddle with Lindsay's necklace. The pair of them had totally missed Joe's statement. Joe fidgets, glances self-consciously around the bar, and takes a sip of his pint. Later, Joe sits alone at the same table. 3 new empty pint glasses sit on the table. Joe grimaces and downs the remaining beer from his current glass. He pauses, stares into space, then walks over to the bar to order another pint. Joe leaves his detached house carrying a high-quality looking SLR camera. He walks along the tree-lined street in a beautifully landscaped lower middle-class neighborhood. Detached and semi-detached houses sit at different angles and distances from the street. He turns a corner and right along the main street, just outside his housing enclave, is a recently bombed forensic laboratory. It still stands in its shell form. Rubble, concrete, roof tiles, and shards of metal are strewn across the ground surrounding the main building. The security fence still stands, but it is mangled and puffed out where it bore the force of the blast. Joe notices the heavily secured entrance. A security camera hangs limply from a wire or two. Joe begins taking pictures of the camera. He then gains enthusiasm and begins taking shots all around the bomb site. Later that night, Patrick and his girlfriend, Maria, also 18 years old, sit on the sofa in the living room. Patrick's mother, Janet, and his sister, Sinead, sit on chairs. They watch Blind Date. Maria reaches across and takes Patrick's hand. Patrick glances down at Maria's hand, then at his mum. Janet spots the show of affection.
Go on, Patrick. Don't be shy. It's cute.
Boys are always like that. Hard men until it's time to show a little love.
Since when am I a hard man?
Since never. Just a general example.
Maria?
Yeah.
Well, my Pat is a hard-working man. That's why a real man is.
I love Saturday TV, Blind Date, Gladiators, then pints and laveries.
You're not going out tonight, are you?
Not tonight. Apparently tomorrow. Can I borrow that tape you were on about?
Come on upstairs, love.
There's a man for you.
Later in Patrick's bedroom, Patrick and Maria sit on his bed. Patrick searches through a pile of tapes.
Gleave D, Marty C, DJ Tricks, David Holmes, Glenn Malloy.
Listen to a wee bit of it now. My bus is in for 45 minutes.
Later in Patrick's bedroom, a DJ mix of rave music blasts out of a small cassette stereo. Maria dances to the music.
Class!
Maria completes her dance with a 90s style hypnotic hand-arm movements. Later out on the street, Patrick and Maria walk arm in arm past a row of terrace houses in a working class area. A number of the houses have been bricked up. A number of youths hang around in a circle in an undeveloped strip of waste ground. The couple reach the corner of the residential street and the main street, and the two soldiers at an army checkpoint approach and stop them.
Where are you two off to?
I'm on a fucking bomb. What do you think?
We've just left my house up there. Now we're going to the bus stop down there so she can get home.
Fucking harassment. Keep the second-class citizens from going about the business. Fucking hilarious, like.
It's the second-class citizen comment that makes you laugh. No wonder some people want you dead.
Whoa, watch it, son. This here is a checkpoint for your safety.
Aye, right, bollocks. Keeping tabs on us more like oppressive bastards.
Smash! A glass bottle smashes right next to them. The soldiers spin around to a large peace wall separating the two communities. A brick and another bottle fly over the wall, followed by jeers of what sounds like a small group of youths. Fenian fuckers!
You fucking orange bastards! Inbred scum!
All right, you pair, take yourselves off.
Patrick and Maria head off towards the bus stop, more bottles smashed in the background. Later at the bus stop, Patrick and Maria sit at the bus stop. Maria fiddles with Patrick's jacket cuff and she holds his hand.
We've got to get out of this place.
Love to, let's go.
I might be able to get a transfer and get a position as a supervisor in Scotland.
Scotland? The weather is even worse there. Probably more boring too.
I could use a taste of boredom, so I could, to be honest with you.
I do know exactly what you mean.
I have to admit, I'm a wee bit nervous.
Nervous? About what?
Supervisor is a big step up.
More nervous about moving to Scotland than staying in this hole?
The odds of fucking up a supervisor position is far higher than getting killed here.
He stands up to his feet.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it.
The bus comes. Patrick takes Maria's hand and gently pulls her to her feet. They kiss. Maria gets on the bus. The bus pulls back onto the road and heads off down the street. Patrick pauses, wags his finger at mid-air.
Did I just see you crush some perfectly good oranges? As your manager?
Patrick turns and heads up back the street towards home. A bottle smashes back near the house peace line, followed by cheers. Later in Joe's bedroom in the morning, the clock reads 10 a.m. Sitting prominently in his bedroom are a set of DJ turntables, and on the floor, rows of records. Joe sits in bed and listens intently to footsteps on the landing. Anne goes into her bedroom to get something, potters around for a moment, then comes back onto the landing, rummaging in her bag. She stares at Joe's bedroom door for a moment, a sad expression on her face. Then she walks off down the stairs. Joe hears the front door closing. He reaches under his bed and heaves out a half-full 2-liter bottle of White Lightning cider. He takes a pint glass from his bedside table and pours the cider. His eyes widen as the cider glugs and fizzes into the glass. Next, he presses play on a cassette stereo next to his bed. Not so coincidentally, the same mix by Glenn Malloy that Patrick was playing in his bedroom blasts from the speakers. The rave scene is big in 1992, and both communities are getting into it. Joe stays in his bed and takes a big swig of the cider, licking the sugary film on his lips. He then gathers from his bedside table a pile of fresh, dark room developed photographs he took of the nearby forensic laboratory. They are stark, dynamic, beautifully composed, black and white images on matte finished paper. Joe flicks through them and appears surprised at how good they've turned out. Later in the supermarket, Patrick sits with the supervisor. He looks over the document relating to his possible transfer.
I think it's great.
Scotland's all right for you?
It's a start. Baby steps.
He smiles and walks his two fingers across the table. In college, Joe flicks through Billy's portfolio. The plastic sleeves have beautifully mounted samples of graphic design and photographs of Billy's pottery. He flicks through a sleeve which is empty.
What's going on here?
Nothing. Nothing fitted with this masterpiece. It looks like I have thought deeply and carefully about my work.
It looks like something is missing, mate.
Sure, I just sold it, £1 million.
Aye, they can go over to the Tate Modern if they want to see it. Look, just put anything in. The interview's Monday.
Belfast Botanical Gardens. Groups of young people sit drinking in clumps on the main lawn in front of Victorian Greenhouse. A no drinking sign stands at the entrance of the lawn. Police officers stroll past the sign as they casually observe the harmless afternoon festivities. Joe and Billy relax under a tree sipping from 2-litre bottles of White Lightning cider.
You're a better man than me, mate. I would have stolen the gun and marched up the falls and sprayed everything.
Cheers.
You had one chance, would you? Peters will do fuck all.
He looks at the officers wandering around the lawn, enjoying the afternoon.
Just imagine what them fuckers were doing to your ma when your ma and you heard about it. At home late, all proud of their achievement. Checked in on their kids. Next morning, I had a nice breakfast and watched a bit of news. Before I heard of Des Graft lining up at the Dole to get money from the Brits. At the same time, your life has gone to fucking hell.
Joe takes a cigarette, lights it, and looks back over at the police officers who are now sharing a joke with some of the drinking students. Later in college, Joe, Billy, and Duster walk through the art college. They walk through the open plan study hall, through a large corridor with a dim photography area, and then through a fire escape door. They are now in the dark emergency stairwell. They walk up 3 flights of the deserted cement staircase, the footsteps echoing through many flights below. Moments later, the 3 sit on the roof, smoking cigarettes.
What about getting caught?
Would Duster let you get caught?
Is it a legitimate target?
Look at Jerry Adams here. Legitimate enough.
They get up and hug.
Your da will be forgotten about, wee lads. Them cunts probably didn't even celebrate for that long. Your mother will never forget.
The helicopter hovers over Belfast city centre. Across Gerrard Street, it is directly hovering over the nationalist enclave where Gerrard lives. Gerrard puts his coat on as Sean stands impatiently at the door.
Manchester United, indeed.
Later at the sports shop, Sean snaps the hangers excitedly along the rungs, hunting for his preferred top. Gerrard stands with his back against the wall. His head remains facing Sean, but his eyes flick vigilantly from left to right. 3 youths march and dress in the uniform of the prods, Rangers and Linfield tops, scarves and caps. Gerrard spots him and skips over to Sean, kneeling down next to him to get his face comfortably out of sight.
Have you not found it yet?
Sean shakes his head and continues browsing. 2 more red, white and blue hoods strut in. These 2 in their early 40s, yet dressed like loyalist street thugs, spies. Jared's nerves begin to rattle. The older hoods chat with the younger three. They notice Jared. They gesture at him and whisper amongst themselves. Jared hugs Sean.
Hurry up, will you, son?
It's fucking him, I'm telling you.
Fenian cunt.
I'll go over there and slap him.
Look, let's go. Come on, we'll come again tomorrow.
The captain shirts are over there, you Fenian cunt. Fuck off back to your slum.
We'll see you soon, you cunt. Give us a wave as we march through.
As Jared reaches the exit, yet another two tough-looking guys walk in. These guys are dressed more like their age, in jeans and casual shirt and a sweater. One of them, Tommy, comes face to face with Jared, and they instantly recognize each other.
Tommy, look who it is. Spokesman for the RA.
Fucking is the RA.
Tommy, look who it is. Spokesman for the RA.
Fucking is the RA.
I'm just taking my son shopping.
All the other hoods approach and surround Jared and Sean. The shop staff stand sheepishly around, reluctant to intervene.
Fucking stab him. Stab his wee cunt of a son too.
Tense moment of silence as Tommy continues to stare at Jared. One of the shop staff bursts through the door. There's a bomb scare at the Europa! Just behind him, the two police officers rush in.
Everyone out and around the corner.
The customers begin leaving quickly, though without any sense of panic. Bomb scares that amount to mere inconvenience are common.
Tell your customers upstairs to get out now.
Jared and the hoods all spin around, slightly disorientated with the new drama.
Everyone out, round the corner to City Hall.
At the Europa Hotel, the police and the army usher members of the public away from the hotel. Again, the public move quickly, but without any sense of fear. A group of young businessmen trot across the road in the direction of the historic Crown Bar, across the road from the Europa Hotel.
Hopefully, we can get 2 pints this time.
I'm going for shots, just in case this one is shorter than usual.
In college, a door to the interview room opens and Billy comes out carrying his portfolio. Joe is waiting outside for him.
How'd it go?
It went classmate. Sounds like a Beezer course. I'll hear back in about 2 weeks.
Grand job.
David comes out of the room and sees Joe. Leon, right?
Is that David next?
Yep. Hey, Joseph, are you still interested in showing 1 or 2 of your pieces at that exhibition I mentioned?
Yeah, sounds good. I just have to get a few ones mounted.
Your images of the forensics laboratory are fantastic. You really have made wonderful progress in such a short space of time. Stick with this new medium and you're going to go far.
When is it?
The Thursday after next.
Yeah, should be okay, sure enough. Not sure.
They need to know by this Thursday.
Okay, I'll have a look through my stuff and let you know.
Double booked, eh?
Later in Joe's living room, Joe and his mother sit silently in the living room watching TV. The vibe is uncomfortable. Their seating arrangement means that they can make eye contact, but they pick up their coffees and sip. They seem to be deliberately avoiding each other's gaze. After a long moment of silence, Joe speaks here very unenthusiastically.
I might be doing an exhibition soon. A photography one.
That's great, Joseph. Where?
At that small independent space near the art college.
When is it?
The Thursday after next. Was thinking of using the photos I took of the bombed forensic lab.
Oh, those photos are great. Really atmospheric. thought-provoking too. There's no better way to deal with. It sounds great, Joseph.
Out on the street, Jared, Sean, and Patrick kick a football back and forth across the street. Sean wears a brand new Manchester United shirt.
Scotland.
Sorry, my apologies. Me and Marie just want to get out of here. It's shite here.
Sean kicks the ball to Jared and kicks it back to Patrick, who then kicks it back to Sean.
You're either piss bored or pissing yourself that you might get a bullet in the back of your head.
What'll you do?
My supervisor said I could get a transfer to Troon and a promotion to supervisor.
True. So you'll be either piss bored or suicidally bored. Go on, Scholes.
Beckham.
No fair play to you. Often wish I'd have took off years ago.
Why don't you?
Trap now.
From around the corner, a man walks and approaches Jared. We chat?
Why not?
Let's stroll.
Go easy on him.
Jared and the man walk off down the street and turn the corner onto an embankment. Jared and the man continue silently walking along the embankment. They reach the end of the embankment and walk up a flight of steps to the footpath. In front of them is the shoes warehouse covered in hip-hop style graffiti. Jared and the man duck through the hole cut in the surrounding wire fence and enter the warehouse grounds. They walk through the empty main floor of the warehouse, also decorated with colorful graffiti. There is a small office at the far end of the main floor where they enter. A new-looking table and chairs sit in the dusty, gloomy office with the shiny new shelves full of files and various other documents. Jared and the man sit at the table.
So what's the latest?
You're the latest, Jared. Later in Joe's house, Anne sits talking on the phone as This Morning plays on the TV in the background.
Well, there were cracks down loads of the walls. The garage door's completely buckled and the front door is off its hinges. Roof tiles? Oh, well, I didn't see any tiles in the garden or the driveway. I didn't think about the attic. I really should go up and see. I certainly don't want the ceiling collapsing in while I'm in bed.
Later, Anne thumps her palm on one of the supporting beams while scanning around the rest of the attic. She carefully tiptoes in the direction of the other beam and trips on a large military-type heavy bag. A photograph of Joe walking along the beach with his father falls out from the bag. Anne sits down, takes a photograph and considers it deeply. She then opens the bag and finds inside other family photos. She rummages through them and finds other items relating to her husband, a wallet, driving license, and military wool jumper. She also finds, hidden in the inner pocket of the bag, a half-empty bottle of vodka. She takes out the empty bottle, considers it in size before putting it back in the same pocket. She glances to her left and notices a photo album with the label South Carolina. She picks it up and begins flicking through it. The album contains beautifully framed photos of Joe's homestay trip to America. Breathtaking views of the American countryside alongside images of quaint log cabin Joe stayed in. Photographs of swimming in picturesque lakes, skateboarding with the local kids. One photograph makes Anne smile proudly. The photo is of Joe breakdancing and taking center stage as a few cute American girls watch in awe at Joe's moves.
So cool.
Anne continues, flicking through the album with a smile, but begins to notice images of Joe's homestay buddy, Patrick, have been X'd out at the head. Anne flicks faster and faster and realizes that every single image of Patrick has been defaced in the same way. Later in the living room, Joe sits on the floor. Large photographs of the recently bombed forensic laboratory are scattered on the carpet. Joe tilts his head as he studies them. A talk show plays on TV.
you want me to jump in?
Annie, that's you.
Oh, I thought it was the host, sorry. We're not free on our own streets.
He glances up at the TV, then turns his attention to his photographs.
We get stopped on the streets for no reason, except we're Catholics. We're like inmates in a concentration camp.
The studio audience shout their disdain at this comment. Joe looks again at the screen.
Mary McLeod said it herself, so she did.
I would just like to say, I'm not sure what that is a direct quote from Mary McAleese.
Well, me and my family have been through a lot of discrimination, getting stopped and questioned. Friends sometimes can't go to the shops because of sectarian parades. We can't get the same job opportunities as Protestants.
The
Sorry.
parades take 5 minutes to go past your house, and none of yous want jobs, just taking dole money away from our government.
We're hemmed in for hours before the marches.
You're all trying to destroy our culture day in and day out. Sinn Féin are chipping away at our culture. We've had enough of it.
This is Ireland. We were here first. Take your culture over to England where it belongs.
Aye, you are doing your best to bomb us out.
Joe finally
My dad,
focuses his attention to the show.
my dad was arrested and held at Castlereagh for no reason. It's unacceptable.
Joe explodes. He grabs one of his photos, scrunches it up and throws it at the TV screen.
My dad was fucking murdered by you whinging bastards.
He calms down and stares at the remaining photographs. Later, Joe comes out of the living room carrying the phone. He sits down and tries to put the phone receiver to his ear, but the cord won't stretch that far. He angles the phone through the banister, but it still won't reach his ear comfortably. He holds the phone awkwardly as he dials.
Is Billy there?
He fiddles again with the phone's angle and waits for Billy to come to the phone.
All right, mate. Tell Duster I'm up for it.
He hangs up, cracks his knuckles, takes an anxious deep breath. Later at the university, Duster, Billy, and a group of other hoods march along the street with determination. Joe walks behind, hunched over with his hands shoved in his pockets. Duster looks around at Joe.
Keep up, mucker. You're the star of the show.
Joe quickens his pace and suddenly straightens his posture. He begins unintentionally, comically strutting like a hard man. Jared walks briskly along the street. He constantly glances around vigilantly. Duster and the gang continue their march through the Victorian University grounds.
Who's the target?
We'll see.
A group of skateboarders practice their skills on a paved courtyard area with low brick walls and short flights of steps with handrails. Anybody?
Famous
Timothy.
coming up to Kill on Sunday.
Can't. Shopping with my ma.
Skate or die.
Jared enters the university area. He hunches over and faces the ground to hide his face. Duster and the gang are now walking through a quiet back garden area of the university. He glances around sheepishly, then reaches into his inside pocket and rummages around. Joe notices this nervously. Jared continues through the grounds. Two of the skateboarders are now skating up ahead. Duster keeps his hand in his inside pocket, his eyes squinting intensely. They approach the corner. The skateboarders can be heard skidding and screeching just around the corner. Jared breaches the corner now. Duster comes around the corner and he and Jared come face to face. Duster still has his hand in his pocket as he walks past Jared. Duster glances back at Jared with a confused look of vague recognition. He disappears off around the corner. Duster regains his focus and pulls out his gold knuckle duster with tag engraved on it from the back and slides it back into his right hand. Joe considers the knuckle duster with a hint of disappointment in his eye. Duster grabs one of the skateboarders by the neck.
All right, Seamus.
He smashes his knuckle duster-clad fist into Seamus's forehead. Seamus slams to the ground. Joe stumbles back, shocked.
You keep Dick.
Billy walks off down the stand of the entrance in the main street. The other three hoots come around from the other side to see Duster kicking and stamping on Seamus. The other three join in on the brutal attack. Joe watches in horror. His expression, though, soon hardens to an angry disgust. Later, Duster, Billy, and the others sit with pints. They all laugh together. Billy fakes his laughter. Joe stands, leaning his back against the bar, with his elbows resting on the counter. Joe doesn't laugh.
See his face when I grabbed him by his fucking neck. Didn't see you do much, mucker.
Duster thrusts his fist to the knuckle duster in Joe's direction.
Offered you a take on a plate. Your dad wouldn't be proud.
Explain it.
Duster doesn't like you slabbering hard, man.
Joe maintains his relaxed but dominantly exposed pose against the bar counter. Joe's stance is faked, awkwardly tough. His eyes display clear fear.
Child's play.
Later that night, Jared leaves the house and begins another walk along the street. One figure is walking behind. Jared passes the children's playground. The figure is still behind, turns into the playground. The figure sits on a bench and stares anxiously at the swings swaying back and forth in the breeze. He cracks his knuckles and screws up his face in anguish. After a moment of reflection, the man springs up and marches with determination back onto the street. Jared crosses to the other side of the road from the playground and gets in his car. The man crosses the road and approaches the car. Jared pauses for a moment, staring at the window in reflection. The man stops behind the car, still clearly stressed, and reaches into his pocket. Jared slides his key into the ignition. He notices the man standing behind. He sees the man slowly remove his hand from his pocket. The man takes a few steps forward and stops again. Jared slides down on his seat to hide. The man pulls out a pack of cigarettes, takes out one cigarette and lights it. He stares up at the dark sky and inhales a cigarette deeply, then exhales slow and long. Jared slides back up, turns a key, and revs the car. The man begins walking. As he reaches the driver's door window, a gunshot rings out, and he is hit by a bullet and falls to the ground. A barrage of gunfire coming from the playground across the street sprays Jared's car with bullets. Jared slumps over the steering wheel, bloody and dead. In Joe's living room, he slouches on the sofa, watching the news.
Passerby was also killed in the Loyalist ambush. The man was on his way to see his wife and dying child in hospital.
In Jared's house, family and friends gather. Jared's wife cries and is consoled by a family member. Men stand around and discuss in serious, harsh tones. Sean sits on the sofa and stares at his feet blankly. Patrick sits next to him, rubbing Sean's arm gently. Sean's grandmother comes over and kneels in front of him, taking his small, limp hands in hers.
Oh, Sean.
Sean continues to stare at his feet, trying to block out everything that's going on around him.
It's okay to cry if you want to.
Sean's grandmother looks up at Patrick in despair. Patrick shuts his eyes tightly and rubs at the small scar on his cheek. The next day, John and Patrick march through the different parts of Belfast, expressing their anger, hatred, and frustration in their heads. Joe walks through a park. Two dogs play aggressively with each other.
What's Belfast coming to? If it wasn't for those Catholics, this country would be
a far better place. Protestants don't know the meaning of compromise.
Nationalists will just kill.
And kill.
And kill until they get what they want.
Loyalists just want it all their own way. We continually suffer.
Because of their bigotry. Fight fire with fire.
An eye for an eye.
Teach them a lesson.
If we don't, they'll walk all over us. Then where will we be?
Ruled by the scum of this country.
We will not surrender.
To threats of violence.
But we're ready.
And if I have to, I'll fight.
To defend my,
Community, because
it seems, the only language.
they understand.
Joe and Patrick come walking down parallel streets. They're approaching an extremely sharp corner on a very narrow piece of land that boasts a famous landmark, Biddle's Bar. The bar is also extremely narrow, with the narrowest end at a triangular corner, only meters wide. Joe and Patrick turn the corner at the same time and accidentally bump into each other.
Sorry, mate.
No bother.
They both continue on their separate ways for now. The end.